Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Bala Deva, Jaya Subhadra. Deva Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shira Prabhupada. Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Go Premanande, Jaya Om Vishnu Bhad Brahmam Si Parivrajacharya. Astotra Sotra Shishimadaisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki Go Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22, entitled The Orbits of the Planets. And we have text 12 to 17. And 17 is on the board, so I just read the translations from the previous verses, 12 to 16, and then we can, 12 to 16, and then it's also 17, it's also on prose. It's actually, I just read it and we can chant the translation together, the word for word. So text 12, translation. Some 1,600,000 miles above this group of stars is the planet Venus, which moves at almost exactly the same pace as the Sun according to swift, slow, and moderate movements. Sometimes Venus moves behind the Sun, sometimes in front of the Sun, and sometimes along with it. Venus nullifies the influence of planets that are obstacles to rainfall. Consequently, its presence causes rainfall, and it is therefore considered very favorable for all living beings within this universe. This has been accepted by learned scholars. Text 13. Mercury is described to be similar to Venus, in that it moves sometimes behind the Sun, sometimes in front of the Sun, and sometimes along with it. It is 1,600,000 miles above Venus, or 7,200,000 miles above Earth. Mercury, which is the son of the Moon, is almost always very auspicious for the inhabitants of the universe. But when it does not move along with the Sun, it forebodes cyclones, dust, irregular rainfall, and waterless clouds. In this way, it creates fearful conditions due to inadequate or excessive rainfall. Text 14. Situated 1,600,000 miles above Mercury, or 8,800,000 miles above Earth, is the planet Mars. If this planet does not travel in a crooked way, it crosses through each sign of the zodiac in 3 fortnights, and in this way travels through all 12, one after another. It almost always creates unfavorable conditions in respect to rainfall and other influences. Text 15. Situated 1,600,000 miles above Mars, or 10,400,000 miles above Earth, is the planet Jupiter, which travels through one sign of the zodiac within the period of a parivatsara. If its movement is not curved, the planet Jupiter is very favorable to the brahmanas of the universe. Text 16. Situated 1,600,000 miles above Jupiter, or 12 million miles above Earth, is the planet Saturn, which passes through one sign of the zodiac in 30 months and covers the entire zodiac circle in 30 anuvatsaras. This planet is always very inauspicious for the universal situation. So in text 17, Tata uttarasmat rishaya ekadasha laksha yojanantara upalabhyante ya eva lokanam sham anubhavayanto bhagavato vishnur yat paramam padam pradikshinam prakramanti. Then the word for word, maybe we can chant together. Tataha, the planet Saturn. Uttarasmat, above. Rishayaha, great saintly sages. Ekadasha laksha yojana antare, at the distance of 1,100,000 yojanas. Upala bhyante, are situated. Ye, all of them. Eva, indeed. Lokanam, for all the inhabitants of the universe. Sham, the good fortune. Anubhavayantaha, always thinking of. Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnuho, Lord Vishnu. Yat, which. Paramam Padam, the supreme abode. Pradakshinam, placing on the right. Prakramanti, circumambulate. Translation. Situated 8,800,000 miles above Saturn, or 20,800,000 miles above Earth, are the 7 saintly sages who are always thinking of the well-being of the inhabitants of the universe. They circumambulate the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, known as Dhruvaloka, the pole star. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya quotes the following verse from the Brahmanda Purana. Kyananandanatmano Vishnu Shishumara Vapusyata Urdvalokeshu Savyapta Adityadyas Tadashrita. Lord Vishnu, who is the source of knowledge and transcendental bliss, has assumed the form of Shishumara in the 7th heaven, which is situated in the topmost level of the universe. All the other planets, beginning with the Sun, exist under the shelter of this Shishumara planetary system. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 22nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Orbits of the Planets. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class, which describes the various heavenly planets above the earth. And it's in a vertical position upwards. We heard about Bhumandala, Jambudvip, which is horizontal, and now we are vertical in this universe. And I don't have a clue about astronomy, so I cannot say anything about all these different planets, but we can see that the effect they have on the inhabitants of this universe is very vividly described. And that means these are persons, and these are also very subtle circumstances. It is said that we live on the plane of where we have gross and subtle. Below the Bhumandala plane there is gross, there's more gross, but up in the higher planetary systems, in the heavenly planets, there is subtlety. The higher it goes, the more subtle they become. So it's very, very interesting. Although I didn't know anything about all these different planets, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and so on, I just want to mention something about the moon, which is also described a few verses before. And it is mentioned that the moon is very auspicious. It has many names, like Manomaya, because he's the controller of the mind, Annamaya, because he gives potencies to the herbs and plants. It moves the oceans, or Amritamaya, because he is the source of life for all living entities. So these descriptions of the moon are very auspicious. It can be seen that the moon has a strong influence over all the living entities, the mind, the well-being. So I was thinking a lot of the moon. It cannot be just a pile of stones like we are presented from NASA or other sources. The moon is very subtle, first of all. So it has a surface which cannot be touched or seen. We can see the light of the moon, but I don't think we can land on the moon. And at Prabhupada's times, he specifically stressed that it is not possible to land on the moon by mechanical means. It's not just a pile of stones like we are presented. And in the same way, I think all the other planets which are presented very graphically and very colorful from NASA, I think these are all just made up by some very intelligent brain. But I'm sure this is not reality. If we get out of our small, our mind is very narrow. What we can perceive from all these surroundings it is said, very, very atomic, very small. That means the perception we get from reality, from so-called reality, is also atomic, very, very small. And as long as we are not pulled out of this atomic perception into a larger picture, which Srimad Bhagavatam gives us all the time. With each and every verse, Srimad Bhagavatam gives us an entire picture, including God, including the source of all sources. That means we are facing reality by reading or studying Srimad Bhagavatam. If we just trust on our mind, on our atomic perception, we are not facing with reality. We are facing with our bubble, mind bubble, which is according to our likings, dislikings, experiences, and all that. And another thing, we heard in the previous chapter about the sun, the movements of the sun, and it was mentioned in the 10th verse of this 21st chapter, the speed of the sun, the movements of the sun. And it was said that the sun is moving from one location to the other, like a movement of 6 hours, a quarter of the day, with the speed of 304,320,000 kilometers. I was looking up about how much is that in 1 hour, and that's in 1 hour 50,720,000 kilometers. The movement of the sun in 1 hour. I mean, and then I converted that into minutes. How much is that in a minute? That means in a minute it's 845,333 kilometers in a minute. And in a second it's 14,088 kilometers. More than 14,000 in a second, which is mesmerizing. If something would pass in front of us with a speed of 14,000 kilometers a second, we wouldn't even perceive it. It's that fast. And interestingly enough is in the verse, like just a few verses before, in the verse 8 from this 22nd chapter, it is mentioned above the rays of the sunshine by a distance of 100,000 yojanas is the moon, which travels at a speed faster than that of the sun. Which means if the sun travels 14,000 kilometers a second, the moon is traveling even faster than the sun, which is mind-blowing. I mean, if you look at the moon, I was out this night looking at the moon. It seems to be, the moon seems to stay, seems to be not moving. And still, if we look long enough, we can see the moon is moving. But if we make the whole picture, it is moving fast, tremendous, with a tremendous speed. So that's another point. How would it be possible to land on an object which travels more than 14,000 kilometers a second? It would not be possible to land on such an object. We can't even perceive, and it passes through, passes by. It's such a mind-blowing speed. So that's another. I was thinking, not only the moon is subtle, so we have to be qualified in another body, not in such a gross body, but the moon is also traveling tremendous, faster than the sun. And all these planets, it is described, sometimes they are along with the moon, the sun, or along with, or behind the sun, or in front of the sun, like that. That means all these stars are traveling with a tremendous speed through the cosmic realm. So that's fascinating. And that means also this is a very organized picture we get from the universe. It's very structured. It is structured according to the the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We don't, with our perception, we don't have a clue why it is structured like that. Or the same thing with the waning and waxing of the moon. Now we have the waxing of the moon. It's a little more than half. And it's such a mystery how the moon is waxing and waning. And we can observe it is each night the same picture at the same time, or each month or each year. It's designed in such a way, very structured. And it's not only the physics, it's also the metaphysics. And not even only the metaphysics, is the spiritual behind. Because the physics itself is inert, is dead matter. But as soon as consciousness is entering into the physics, you get the movements, you get transformation of matter, which is otherwise not moving, it's inert. So if we look at the picture, what we have Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kamano bhutirevacha ahankara iti ame binna prakriti rastada. We have earth, water, fire, air, and ether, which constitute physics, the material body. Everybody, whatever we see, whatever we perceive, is made out of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then we have metaphysics. We have mind, intelligence, and we have false ego, or ego. And then we have the spiritual, we have the Atma, which consists of Satchitananda. And this is what we have. Wherever we go in this universe, whatever we do, we have to do with this, with these different elements. And Krishna calls the soul Purusha in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti, which is eternal also, by the way, and Purusha, which is eternal. Some religious organizations, groups, they say the soul was created by God. But this is not what Bhagavad Gita says. The soul never was created. Because as soon as we say the soul was created, we come into a problem. Then we can put the responsibility of our suffering to God. He created us, so He's responsible for our suffering. Ultimately, He's not a good guy. He's responsible for that. but the soul is coexisting with God. It was never created and it will never die, which means we have a different reality than what we are perceiving here. We are not from this realm. The soul exists in a completely different realm, which means, you see, Gita distinguishes in the 13th chapter between nature and enjoyer. The soul is, if Krishna says Purusha to the soul, he's speaking about an experiencer. He's not, because that's why we are here. We want to experience something. We hanker for all kinds of experiences, different experiences, because that's what we are looking for, to make different experiences. So, and the consciousness which enters into Prakriti makes these transformations. And consciousness is moving through different phases, like dreaming phase, deep sleep, wakeful state. If we are in a dreaming state, all the external objects are shut out from our perception. We don't perceive our environment anymore, but we are perceiving what is inside our mind. Our mind gives us all kinds of different images, pictures. That's what we are perceiving, and we think it's reality. We think what we are seeing in our mind, in us, in this bubble of our mind, that's a kind of transformation, because we are identifying ourselves. And then deep sleep is also, the mind is shut out. We are not perceiving our environment, we are not perceiving what's happening in our mind. But still, the soul makes an experience. And this experience actually is a blissful experience. Because when we wake up in the morning and somebody asks us, "How did you sleep?" we can say, "Oh, I had a very good sleep. I was sleeping very nicely. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Jai Shri Shikoni Tai." Which means consciousness is perceiving, is making an experience without physics or metaphysics. And it is said that this is the only state of happiness which we have here in this material world. When we are in deep, deep ignorance, deep sleep, and we are not perceiving anything consciously, I mean, in a wakeful consciousness, but still the soul makes an experience a blissful experience. And then in the wakeful state, we are perceiving our environment, and in the same way as in dreaming state, we think it is real. We identify with our environment, we identify with our body, we identify with our situation, we identify with all kinds of things which just happen around us. And although the mind is in Sattva Gun, and this wakeful state is also in the moment in Sattva Gun, but this Sattva Gun is corrupted by all the other gunas, the lower gunas. Because although the mind is in Sattva, its nature is Sattva Gun, but the senses are in Rajas, intelligence is in Rajagun, and all the bodily functions are in Tamagun. So just by living in our body, just by working out all our duties, whatever we do, we are corrupted by the lower modes. So it's very difficult to stay in Sattva Gun. Although we have to try to be in Sattva Gun at every moment, because only in Sattva Gun we are making happy experiences. So that means by all means we have to try to stay in Sattva Gun. And experience means we have the choice, we have the freedom of choice. We want to experience something blissful, something which makes us happy. And if we are called the experiencer, which is not only enjoyer, but also sufferer, because experience gives us all kinds of feelings. That means by contact with matter, consciousness can expand or contract. And the more we expand our consciousness, the more happiness we feel. It is said that there are 5 different stages of consciousness, although the consciousness itself doesn't change, but the content of the consciousness changes. We have very contracted consciousness, which is found in the plants, in the trees. They don't make they don't have an emotional experience. At least I didn't see trees laughing. Maybe they might have some emotions, but emotions is rather an experience of expanded consciousness. The more our consciousness expands, the more emotions we feel. And the more our consciousness expands, the more we can foresee the consequences of our action. Our actions, if we do this or if we do that, we can foresee the consequences of what we are doing. If Krishna defines karma in the Bhagavad Gita as an action which produces another body and another body and the next body, we can try to act so that we don't have to take up another body. Which means the more our consciousness expands, the more we can act in such a way that we don't have to take another body again. Which means we have to act consciously to expand our consciousness. One problem is, on one side, imagination. Imagination is something which is a boon, but at the same time which is also a curse. Because if something happens to us, or the mind, in a wakeful, even in a wakeful state, we are always imagining something, imagining what's going to happen. And we are worrying. Animals don't worry about their retirement. What's going to happen with me when I retire? They just live in the moment. And they don't see also the consequences. Like, let's say a deer is chased by a lion, and all kinds of fearful experiences are running through his mind. He's running away fast to escape the lion. And let's say he manages to escape. So now the danger is gone, and we can see the deer peacefully grazing, not worrying anymore about the experience. But if we, in a human form, would be chased by a lion or a tiger, and we would manage to escape, this experience would, for months, even years, turn in our head as a very fearful experience, which we just by chance escaped. So we would even dream about it. I think it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, that sometimes we even live karma in our dreams. We don't live in a wakeful state, the karma, because it's just not enough time in 24 hours to live out our karma. So we live it sometimes in our dreams to minimize our karma. But this experience of chasing, this imagination of what could have happened, is turning around in our mind. So that's the curse, we can say, of imagination. But a sign of developed consciousness is we can foresee the consequences. We can see, if I do this, this will happen. So, and if I don't do this, this will happen. And the more our consciousness is expanded, the more we can act in such a way that we will get a blissful experience. And ultimately, we can connect with the source of all sources, and to, in that connection, have a blissful experience, which are emotions. Emotions are also a sign of developed consciousness. I mean, after the trees and the plants, which is a very contracted consciousness, we have the animals, which is a little more open. Some animals, they even have emotions, like the cows. If we take away their babies, there are even cases where the cows commit suicide because of emotions towards their babies, which have been slaughtered. Or even when the cow has to go to the slaughterhouse, sometimes we can see tears, emotion. They know what's going to happen. So these are different gradations of consciousness, of experience, of emotions. And it is said in the human consciousness there are 3 different levels. I mean, maybe there are more, but they are very low consciousness, where people cannot discern, they cannot distinguish what will happen when I do this or when I do that. And their action degrades their own consciousness, because if I act in a very abominable way, naturally my consciousness will be degraded, will be contracted, because the consciousness doesn't match with the life form I'm in as a human being. Like it's a certain qualification to be a human being. So in the highest form of expanded consciousness, we can have an emotional connection with the Supreme. which frees us from our bodily identification, and which leads us to the spiritual world. So all this is the Srimad Bhagavatam gives us a broader picture of reality, not just our atomic perception of what's going on. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam connects us with all the sages of our parampara and all the knowledge deep inside. We are all-knowing, Chit, and there is a room. Let's say, did you ever contemplate the word contemplation? Its source is from Latin. Con, templum is the source. And con means with, and templum means an inner space, a divine space inside of us, which is, we hear something, we think deeply about it, and until it's giving the meaning, which means we enter into a room, into that room which is knowledge inside us. Templum, this room, the divine room inside of us, which gives us the understanding of, it's very, very much connected with the intelligence also, because the intelligence is like a guardian of everything which enters inside, which perhaps they are favorable and unfavorable. Samskaras. So the more we contemplate about a topic or something we hear, the more it gives us the actual meaning. So the more we connect with the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the, like, and Shukadev Goswami, Vyasadeva, and all these other sages, the more we are pulled out of our atomic brain, atomic mindset, into a larger picture, into the large picture which includes God, the source of all sources, and gives us the opportunity to connect, deeply connect. I see I'm over time, so I think I stop here. Maybe there is some questions, or yes, please.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the inspiration lecture. Very nice topics. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
My question would be, could you please give in a context the signs of where we can see the high consciousness? What are the significance of it? I mean, you mentioned some that we can see how we can identify this higher consciousness.
Thank you for the question. I think if we have examples of personalities, how they act, what they are doing, what is their way of thinking, feeling, willing, if we connect with such personalities, glimpses, if we hear from such personalities, glimpses of their wisdom are walking towards us, coming towards us. If we connect with Srila Prabhupada, with Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have examples of how we engage our emotions, because often, with these literatures, our intelligence is addressed. But actually, what drives us is emotion. So if our intelligence is acting as a guardian, knowing this action leads to this consequence, our emotions can be transformed. And we slowly go towards these highest emotions, which are exchanged between Radha Krishna and all the associates. So I think when we have discussions like this, we are on the right path. How to expand consciousness, how to expand emotions, and how to perceive where we are heading to. Is that answering? Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Nantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Very nice, thank you. Wo wohnst du? Am Kirchentempel? Fährst du weit?
Ja, ich wohne im Limmatal. Das ist also mit einer Bahn vielleicht so eine halbe Stunde. Schlieren? Weißt du Schlieren?
Schlieren von Ettigen.
Du bist wo?
Ettigen.
Ettigen.
Ettigen. Spitze. Ettigen geboren.
Aber Ettigen?
Ja. Okay, Schlieren gut.
Ja, aber Schlieren ist unteranstrengend. Ich wohne nicht unteranstrengend.
Das ist nicht so.
Ja, ist okay. Du hast mir so ein Ding geschickt, so eine, ich weiß nicht, irgendeine Gruppe war ein Beat
Klasse.
Was ist das?
Das ist wegen der Klassenroster. Also Schedule für die Klasse.
Dass ich sehe, wenn Klasse
Ja, wenn Klasse gibt.
Ah,
Du siehst ja selber, wenn du Klasse bist. Also ich muss normalerweise direkt auch die Leute wissen, zum Fragen, wann kannst du Klasse geben, und dann schicke ich den Roster raus. Dann weiss jeder, wer wann Klasse gibt.
dann müsste ich mit der Dame, das heißt.
Ja, ja, schon. Aber versuche das paar Eltern wieder zu motivieren, so weißt mit einbeziehen, ein bisschen motivieren zum Klasse gehen. Das ist die Motivation, Organisation.
Ja.
Sehr gut. Und was machst du im kleinen Stein?
Übe jetzt. Ganz im